Government structures define how power and authority are distributed within a country or organization. These structures influence how decisions are made, how leaders are chosen, and how laws are enforced. Different government systems have developed throughout history, each with its own advantages, disadvantages, and unique characteristics. Let's explore various types of government structures, explaining how they function and their impact on society. 1. Democracy, rule by the people. Democracy is a system of government in which power is vested in the people, either directly or through elected representatives. In a democratic system, citizens have the right to vote, express their opinions, and participate in decision-making processes. Democracies can be further divided into different types. In a direct democracy, citizens directly participate in decision-making without intermediaries. Ancient Athens is often cited as an example, where citizens gathered in assemblies to vote on laws and policies. In a representative democracy, citizens elect representatives who make decisions on their behalf. Most modern democracies, including the United States, the United Kingdom, and India, are representative democracies. Elected officials are accountable to the people and must seek re-election at regular intervals. In a presidential democracy, the president is both the head of state and the head of government. The president is elected separately from the legislature and has significant executive powers. The United States is a prime example of a presidential democracy. In a parliamentary democracy, the executive branch derives its legitimacy from and is accountable to the legislature, parliament. The head of government, usually the prime minister, is typically the leader of the majority party in parliament. The United Kingdom and Canada are examples of parliamentary democracies. 2. Republic, a state without a monarch. A republic is a form of government in which the head of state is an elected or appointed official, not a hereditary monarch. In a republic, sovereignty rests with the people and their representatives rather than a single ruler. There are different types of republics. In a constitutional republic, the government operates under a set of laws, a constitution, that limits the powers of government officials and protects individual rights. The United States is an example of a constitutional republic. A federal republic is a union of states or regions that share power with a central government. Each state or region retains some level of autonomy. Examples include Germany, the United States, and Brazil. An Islamic republic is a republic that is governed according to Islamic law, Sharia, while maintaining republican governance principles. Iran is an example of an Islamic republic. 3. Monarchy, rule by a king or queen. Monarchy is a form of government where a single person, the monarch, king, queen, emperor, etc., serves as the head of state for life or until abdication. Monarchies can be divided into several categories based on the distribution of power. In an absolute monarchy, the monarch has almost complete control over the government and is not bound by a constitution or laws. The monarch's authority is often justified by divine right. Saudi Arabia and Brunei are examples of absolute monarchies. In a constitutional monarchy, the monarch's powers are limited by a constitution or laws, and they often serve as ceremonial figureheads. The real political power resides with elected representatives. The United Kingdom, Japan, and Sweden are examples of constitutional monarchies. 4. Oligarchy, rule by a few. Oligarchy is a form of government where power is concentrated in the hands of a small group of people, often from the same social, economic, or political class. Oligarchies can take various forms. An aristocracy is a form of oligarchy where power is held by the nobility or a privileged class. Historically, many European countries were governed by aristocracies before transitioning to other forms of government. A plutocracy is an oligarchy where power is held by the wealthy. Economic elites exert significant influence over political decisions, often prioritizing their own interests over those of the general population. A theocracy is a form of government where religious leaders or institutions hold political power, often based on the belief that their authority is derived from a divine source. Iran and Vatican City are examples of theocracies. 5. Authoritarianism, concentration of power. Authoritarianism is a form of government characterized by strong central power and limited political freedoms. In authoritarian regimes, political pluralism is often suppressed, and the government may use coercion and propaganda to maintain control. Types of authoritarian governments include dictatorships and military juntas. In a dictatorship, power is concentrated in the hands of a single leader, often maintained through force or manipulation. The dictator has significant control over all aspects of government and society. Examples include North Korea under Kim Jong-un and Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler. A military junta is a government led by a committee of military leaders who have seized power, often through a coup d'état. These regimes are typically characterized by the suppression of political opposition and the militarization of government. Myanmar, formerly Burma, and Thailand have experienced periods of military rule. 6. Totalitarianism, absolute control over society. Totalitarianism is an extreme form of authoritarianism where the government seeks to control nearly every aspect of public and private life. Totalitarian regimes often use propaganda, surveillance, and repression to maintain their power. Characteristics of totalitarian states include single-party rule, state control of the economy, and the cult of personality. In a totalitarian state, a single political party monopolizes power, and all other political parties are banned or heavily restricted. The ruling party controls the government, economy, media, and education system. Totalitarian regimes often control the economy to ensure that it serves the interests of the state. Private enterprise is either heavily regulated or completely eliminated. Totalitarian leaders often cultivate a cult of personality, where the leader is portrayed as an infallible, godlike figure. This helps to legitimize the leader's authority and suppress dissent. Examples of totalitarian regimes include Stalin's Soviet Union and Mao's China. 7. Federalism, division of power between central and regional governments. Federalism is a system of government where power is divided between a central, federal government and regional, state, provincial, or local governments. Each level of government has its own set of responsibilities and powers, which are typically outlined in a constitution. Federalism is designed to balance the interests of a large and diverse population. Examples of federal systems include the United States and Germany. In the United States, power is divided between the federal government and the individual states. Each state has its own government, which operates independently of the federal government in certain areas. Germany is a federal republic where power is shared between the federal government and 16 states, Länder. The states have significant autonomy, particularly in areas like education and law enforcement. 8. Confederation, a union of sovereign states. A confederation is a union of sovereign states, where the central government has limited authority and the member states retain most of their independence. Confederations are often established for mutual defense or economic cooperation, but the central government has little power to enforce decisions. Examples of confederations include the Confederate States of America and the European Union, EU. The Confederacy was a group of southern states that seceded from the United States during the Civil War. The Confederate government had limited authority, and the states retained significant autonomy. The EU is a unique political and economic union of European countries that have pooled certain aspects of their sovereignty, particularly in economic and trade matters. However, member states retain significant independence in other areas. 9. Unitary state, centralized power. A unitary state is a system of government where most or all of the power is concentrated in a central government, with little to no authority delegated to regional or local governments. In a unitary state, the central government makes decisions for the entire country, and any regional governments operate primarily as administrative arms of the central government. Examples include France and Japan. France is a unitary state where the central government in Paris holds most of the power, and regional governments have limited autonomy. Japan is another example of a unitary state, where the central government has strong control over the country's policies, with local governments operating under its direction. 10. Anarchy, absence of government. Anarchy is a situation where there is no formal government or governing authority. In an anarchic state, there is no centralized control, and society operates without a structured system of law or governance. Anarchism is a political philosophy that advocates for a society free from government, often promoting self-managed, stateless societies based on voluntary cooperation. While true anarchy is rare and typically unsustainable in the long term, some anarchist movements have sought to create communities based on principles of mutual aid and direct democracy, such as the short-lived anarchist territories during the Spanish Civil War. 11. Technocracy. Rule by experts. Technocracy is a form of government where decision-making is guided by technical experts, scientists, engineers, and other specialists, rather than elected representatives or politicians. Technocrats are selected based on their expertise and knowledge in specific fields, with the belief that they can manage society more efficiently and effectively than traditional politicians. While there are few examples of pure technocracies, elements of technocratic governance can be seen in some modern governments, where policy decisions in areas like healthcare, infrastructure, and environmental regulation are heavily influenced by experts. 12. Meritocracy. Rule by the most capable. Meritocracy is a system of government or organization where individuals are selected for leadership and positions of authority based on their abilities, achievements, and merits, rather than on wealth, social status, or political connections. In a meritocratic society, education, skills, and performance are the primary criteria for advancement. Meritocracy is often idealized as a way to ensure that the most capable individuals lead, but it can also face challenges, such as defining merit and ensuring equal opportunities for all individuals to succeed. 13. Communism. Collective ownership and state control. Communism is a political and economic ideology that advocates for the elimination of private property and the establishment of a classless society where the means of production, factories, land, resources, are collectively owned and controlled by the state or the community as a whole. In a communist state, the government typically controls all aspects of the economy and distributes resources according to need. Examples of communist states include the Soviet Union and China. The Soviet Union was the world's first communist state, established after the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. The government controlled all industries and resources, and the Communist Party held absolute power. China is officially a communist state, though its economy has incorporated many capitalist elements since the late 20th century. The Communist Party of China remains the sole governing party, with strict control over political life. 14. Socialism. State control with social welfare. Socialism is a political and economic system where the means of production are owned and controlled by the state or public entities with the aim of reducing economic inequality and providing for the welfare of all citizens. Socialism seeks to balance individual rights with the collective good, often through state intervention in the economy and the provision of social services like healthcare, education, and housing. There are different types of socialism, ranging from democratic socialism, which combines socialism with democratic governance, to more authoritarian forms of socialism, where the state exerts significant control over all aspects of life. Examples include the Scandinavian countries and Cuba. Countries like Sweden, Norway, and Denmark are often cited as examples of democratic socialism, where a strong welfare state exists alongside a market economy. Cuba is an example of a more centralized socialist state, where the government controls most of the economy and provides extensive social services, but political freedoms are limited. 15. Fascism. Nationalistic authoritarian state. Fascism is a far-right political ideology that promotes an authoritarian government, often led by a dictator, with strong nationalist and militaristic values. Fascist regimes are characterized by their suppression of political opposition, control of the economy, and emphasis on the supremacy of the state over individual rights. Examples of fascist regimes include Nazi Germany and Mussolini's Italy. Adolf Hitler's regime in Germany from 1933 to 1945 is the most infamous example of fascism. The Nazi government was characterized by totalitarian control, aggressive nationalism, and the persecution of minority groups. Benito Mussolini established the first fascist government in Italy in 1922. His regime emphasized militarism, nationalism, and the glorification of the state. 16. Hybrid regimes, combining elements of different systems. Hybrid regimes are political systems that combine elements of democracy with authoritarianism or other forms of government. These regimes often have democratic features, such as elections and a constitution, but these are undermined by authoritarian practices, such as limited press freedom, political repression, and the concentration of power in the hands of a few. Examples of hybrid regimes include Russia and Turkey. Under Vladimir Putin, Russia has been described as a hybrid regime, where elections are held, but the government tightly controls the political environment, media, and opposition parties. Turkey under Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been characterized as a hybrid regime, where democratic institutions exist, but are weakened by the centralization of power and crackdowns on dissent. Government structures are diverse, reflecting the varying needs, values, and histories of different societies. Each system has its own strengths and weaknesses, and the effectiveness of a government often depends on how well it aligns with the cultural, economic, and social context of the country it governs. Understanding these different types of government structures helps us better appreciate the complexities of governance and the many ways in which power can be organized and exercised.